Hi, and welcome to this week's Mortgage Broker broadcast. My guest this week is Mark Grant from Fiducia Network. And the reason why I wanted to get Mark back onto the podcast was that Mark was here 2 years ago talking about commercial lending, talking about commercial referrals and Fiducia Network. And I want to get Mark back onto the podcast to a lot has changed for Mark and Fiducia in the last 2 years. I wanted to get Mark back on to talk about that and really explore and explain further about how they work as a network, how you can become an AR of Fiducia, and how you can have that commercial lending as part of your proposition. But more importantly, as well, what help and support and community and how they help you to become a successful commercial broker or have that as part of your business, and into a bit more detail about that whole work. So yeah, I wanted to get Mark back onto podcast to explore that a lot more, talk about the help and support. Before we do that, though, here's Lee Rowland with his regular weekly Mortgage Broker Bulletin.
Thank you, Craig, and welcome back to the second episode of the Mortgage Broker Bulletin. Quick things to get out the way. Base rate stayed the same, unsurprisingly. Some people might be thinking that the lenders have spent all their money and the rates are going to go up. I think we saw one buy-to-let lender put their rates down last week, then put them back up again. Anyway, regarding brokers, just been thinking, the word authenticity gets thrown around a little bit, and it's all about online authenticity. The thing is, you've got to be authentic and real in real life as well. Sometimes you are your business, and when you're going around, even the shops, at football, to the pub, you've got to be the same person, because word gets around. So just think how you carry yourself, how you interact with people. Just try to be as friendly as possible, and hopefully more business will come your way. Have a great week. Onwards, upwards and forwards, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks for that, Lee. Thanks for putting the time and effort back in for the Mortgage Broker Bulletin, and thanks very much for that information. So now let's just get Mark Grant onto the podcast. So welcome back onto the podcast, Mark. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. I think we just thought it's 2 years now since we did the first one. So no, it's great to be back. Thanks for the invite.
No, it's good to be. It's great to get you back onto the podcast, and I think just sometimes it's hard to understand in terms of timescales and timelines and the rest of thinking. It doesn't seem like 2 years ago since you and I were talking about commercial, and obviously one of the first episodes, and it was pretty early in the whole podcasting. I think we're about 150 episodes in now, and I think you was on probably one of the first 50 of them. So yeah, it has been certainly been a while, and I appreciate you taking the time to come back on and update in terms of Fiducia and yourself and commercial referrals. So I really appreciate you coming back on, Mark. But like I say, it has a lot has happened for both of us, I think, in the last 2 years.
I think it has. I was just because we've had a rate announcement today. I'm trying to work out. I think rates might have been at 0.5% or 0.25% or 0.5% then. I mean, that's how long ago it was now. Yeah. And that's 0 point, not 1 or 2 point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just to clarify. So, Mark, thanks for coming back onto the podcast. Do you want to just first of all, we're going to get into about Fiducia and the opportunities of becoming a commercial broker and things like that. But first of all, do you want to just do your introduction, explain who you are and a bit about your background?
Certainly, thanks. So my background is financial services, not commercial finance, but for over 30 years, fixed income, derivatives, interest rate markets, getting on the commuter train up and down to Liverpool Street in London, working for big brokerage firms, did some work in credit derivatives, did some business development work and sales. There was obviously a lot of interest from third parties, be they asset managers, pension funds, etc. So there's a lot of research, a lot of data that people generate in the city to sell out. So that gave me a bit of a taste for the commercial side of what goes on with financial services. I guess a bit of a career change from working in the city, working in financial markets to commercial finance when a friend started getting involved in that area, and we talked about me also doing that. But a very transferable skill set. I've always been a broker. I've always worked with people that I don't necessarily have anything in common with or knowledge of up front, but you then have to develop that relationship, support people, help them do. And that just translated perfectly into commercial finance. Fast forward a few years to working with Fiducia, and I was working with someone where I was a broker in the commercial finance market, but they as a group had a network where they were supporting other brokers and authorizing other brokers to do commercial finance. So I've kind of morphed from whatever anybody might call my broking boots. I've kind of hung those up and just wholly concentrate now on managing the commercial finance network and helping people come on board and helping them move forward and grow their commercial finance businesses.
Excellent. Which I'm looking forward to getting into a bit more detail about how you are helping and supporting the brokers getting into the commercial space and the opportunities that creates. So you are the managing director of Fiducia Network. So do you want to just explain 20? I know you haven't been there yet, Mark, 22 years, but did I see recently 22 years Fiducia celebrating as a business, as a network?
Yeah, and the owners have been there 22 years, so I'm fairly suspecting there's been some photoshopping going in those 22nd birthday shots. But so we as a financial services group have been there for 22 years. The guys are Lloyds and NatWest banked kind of wealth backgrounds. That's where they came into this practice and started up the comprehensive financial planning business. They ran that. They're still the co-owners and directors of the businesses and the group. Within about 5 years of starting that up, a lot of their wealth and pension clients and regulated clients were SME owners and directors, and they realised there was a big demand for funding, for support for those businesses. So that's where our own brokerage, Fiducia Commercial Solutions, was born, 2006. So we were helping the clients of the wealth business that the guys had set up originally. Always been on the right side of doing things. Marcus Grimshaw, our CEO, was chair of the NACFB in the kind of 2007-2009 sort of period. We've always been directly authorized. 2006 doesn't sound like a long time ago in financial services, but the commercial finance market was fairly immature then. It definitely wasn't in any sort of regulated state at all. The concept of regulation, would have horrified most people that were practitioners on the broking side of it. So, but we've always been on that right side of it. We've come from a regulated background. We like sleeping at night, so we've always done that. Kind of fast forward, we've worked with kind of big national network relationships. Someone like the Open Work Partnership is someone that they authorise our regulated business now, which are an AR of the Open Work Partnership. We've also been a national network introduction partner, so we've been one of 4 people that advisors on the Open Work Partnership could send commercial cases to. So that was the model around the brokerage. And it got to a point where some of our introducers by 2019 had so much deal flow in commercial that it made little sense for them to carry on referring it to someone else. They wanted to figure out how they could do it themselves. But they were still running a regulated practice. They were still doing regulated mortgages and protection. And how could they do that without stepping across any toes in terms of the authorization from the FCA? So these concepts of dual authorization came up between conversations with ourselves, the FCA, and the Open Work Partnership, and we started to see these businesses set up a side business, if you like, a limited company. If it was ABC Mortgages, we'd have ABC Commercial Limited set up. Same director and CF1 would be running that business, and they'd be authorized under our umbrella. But the FCA would then be aware of which hat they were wearing to do what. That their regulated network wouldn't have concerns about the risk that they were taking on their watch for anything commercial that was going on, because any commercial activities would come under us. So it is the primary thing that we provide is this regulatory umbrella. We then wrap other services and insurances, etc., around it. But the main thing that we do is we authorize people to do the commercial business, which sounds like a bit of an oxymoron, because as soon as I start talking to people about it, we talk about the fact that all we do is unregulated products. So we are FCA authorized. That FCA authorization allows you to do things that you can't do unless you're authorized with lenders. So with property, you cannot, if you're unauthorized by the FCA, you cannot deal with a regulated person, which is an individual personal property name or a small partnership of 3 or less. In trading business, you can't deal with small partnerships of 3 or less or sole traders, for example. The FCA just affords them slightly more protection and believes, to be honest, limited companies should know better in a lot of cases, so therefore not quite as much protection is afforded. The there's other advantages. You need, from a commercial finance broker point of view, you need an FCA number to do Google ads, to do Facebook advertising. That's all quite important to people these days as they start up and they're trying to build their network and lead flow. So yeah, we provide quite a wrapper apart from just that FCA authorization umbrella.
I think that's it. Like, I think it's not until you explore it more. You talked before, and I listened to, before we recorded this one, I was listening back to the previous one that we recorded, and I think that sort of, when you talk, it gives it clarity when you're talking about that wrapper around what you do in terms of and the functionality. And I think that sort of, sometimes with regards to a mortgage broker, and I'm sat here thinking, I want to get into the commercial mortgage broking space, or I want to offer it, and I want to employ somebody or have somebody within my business doing that, or I want to do that myself. On what you've sort of said there and giving that clarity is that you're okay with that dual authorization of having ABC mortgages, and this is my network and this is what I do, and then we've got ABC commercial, which may be the same broker doing the same function, same business entity per se, doing both, but obviously a separate limited company doing it, but then doing it under your umbrella, which then gives total clarity to the client and gives total clarity from an FCA regulation point of view.
Yeah, exactly, and it does from the lenders. We've got a very, very small number of people who operate under the same, for their reasons. They want to operate under the same name. We try very hard to kind of push back against that. We'd like the dual authorization, the dual entity. There's some really practical reasons. There's 6 or 8 lenders who, as a regulated practice, you're going to be registered with under your regulated network. You've got the same FCA number. So when it comes to us, and we then send a case, their back office says, well, sorry, computer says, no, you're already listed. Doesn't. So there are some practical issues with it as well. But you're right. I mean, I don't want to, I never want to say to anyone, if it's not quite right for them yet, if it's not quite right for us yet, that's also a conversation I have, because as you can imagine, we put a lot of support into people, but we can't broker every deal for them, have every conversation for them, etc. So people that are completely and utterly new to it, that might not have lead flow yet, that might not have the network for it yet, and might not have the knowledge. If you combine all of the things that they don't have, then they're not ready yet. There is a route of, if you're not quite ready, then refer that on. We've got an existing commercial finance brokerage. Work with them. If you're getting one lead every couple of months, one lead a month maybe, just to get yourself going, refer that into them. Work with them so you understand the process. Work alongside the client to understand what's going on and get going that way. Because obviously, how we work with people, we have a revenue share with people, as everyone does who's a principal firm, as a network. But the less business someone is doing to start with, our revenue share would be slightly more in our favour, not astronomically, but it's slightly more in our favour, just to reflect the fact that we will be putting that much more resource in to help. But we kind of try and set a bar to say, look, within the next 12 to 18 months, what sort of run rate fees wise are you going to be at? Are you going to be able to achieve that? Otherwise, it's never, we're not short term at all. So if someone's not ready yet, but they've got definite aspirations, ambition, work with our team, work with the brokers, get used to the market. And it's a great way to start. You're starting a lot warmer that way, I think.
No, 100%. And that's the thing I was thinking there. It's because I know, obviously, you work with the brokers. So if I am referring a lead over to you, a potential client, get the broker. It's not just a case of a hands off and thank you very much, and we'll tell you when it's completed or when the case isn't going ahead or anything like that. It's very much working with the broker that's referred to then get them involved. So as a broker, you're getting, it's a win-win because you're getting first-hand experience of the process from somebody like one of your brokers that does commercial brokers that does this day in, day out. I'm referring as a business to that person. I'm getting to see first-hand processes, lenders, things like that, getting involved a little bit, which then gives me first-hand experience to think, do you know what, this is something I want to get involved with. And then it's just, like you said, building it from there, because one referral builds onto two. And then, because one thing that we never talked about before, but I'm seeing more and more of, and I'm seeing from my own business point of view that this is how we generate commercial leads, was from a social media point of view. I never seen brokers talking about commercial on the social media. They'll be talking about rate changes, they'll be talking about protection, they'll be talking about other things, but they'll certainly, what I see very few of is talking about commercial mortgages, because they might not understand it, they might not have any appetite for it, they don't know what to do with it. But working with you will then give that broker more exposure to the commercial broking space, looking at the lenders, looking at like typical clients. Because I get, what I love about Fiducia is I'm registered with yourself, and I get your newsletters through when they come through, and you've got case studies on there and things like that that I read through thinking that's great. So then the brokers on social media can be using those case studies to then generate social media content, to then help generate leads, to then refer. And it's just about building those, like just building that from there in terms of them being comfortable with it, because they know that I'm going to be posting something on social media about commercial. I'm working with the broker at Fiducia. I know who's dealing with my referrals, but then slowly but surely it's then that, rather than a handover and a referral, soon then becomes, you know what, I want to get involved a lot more with this, and I want to be an AR of Fiducia rather than referring that in. But I think that's it's just a huge. I know we didn't talk about that last time. I just see there's a massive gap in the market that brokers don't talk about commercial opportunities, and we will talk about obviously your take on what the next few years look like from a commercial lending point of view. But I think it's just a massive thing that they're missing out on.
I think, and it starts, you know, my career with Fiducia started in the broking team as well as business development on the network side of things. But that is something, you know, we'll talk a bit later about maybe kind of some of the opportunities we try to open people's eyes to that are available to them, either through products that we do or how we can help train them, etc. But that starts in the broking team. So our brokers will work with someone, you know, it's what I think you can go back to, you know, everyone thinks they cracked it when they had relationship over transaction. But actually, what I think that relationship does, it's just a key to lots of other transactions. So we're a big national network broker. So we work on the basis of, you know, we try not to give people the typical packager or referral broker experience. We wouldn't have lasted with a major network for 16 years if that had been the case. You can't drop the ball. But rather than just getting on with the referrers and just waiting for the next commercial owner occupied case to come in, what we start saying to is, look, you've got these guys, and these are coming through to you with commercial owner occupied. You've got trading businesses. So while you're talking to these trading businesses and these are in your client bank, you know that they're off with other brokers 3 or 4 times a year doing asset finance, doing business loans, doing corporation and VAT tax funding. If you ever want to have a conversation about that, let us know, and we can provide. We can provide. You know, we do now to our ARs. You know, text that you can literally, as you mentioned there with the newsletter. This is literally chop and paste. Here's 8 reasons why you might want to look at asset finance at the moment. Here's how VAT and cash flow lending can help you when your business is really strapped. Because, you know, a commercial mortgage, let's face it, every 5 or 10 years, if that, a business might move around. But in the meantime, several times a year, they're doing business with someone else. You know, why not be that much more of a one-stop shop for your clients? That starts within our brokerage business. It's the way that I like to try and help our businesses on the network grow by saying to them, look, you're an amazing property mortgage broker. This is what you've brought over. Now you've got that sussed. You've got a client bank of trading businesses. Every single one of those is going to be doing something else somewhere else. It's better for the client. It's a single fact find. They don't have to go and do several things in several different places. Why not do it all with, if they trust you with your property, they're definitely going to trust you with a transit van. And, you know, as a broker, you're probably talking a 2-week lead time rather than 16 to 18 weeks to get a mortgage kind of through with a bank. So, yeah, I think it's crucial. I think that's exactly, you know, how brokers should be. Good brokers are going to kind of broaden their horizons. They're going to take their customers with them. They're going to help them in lots of different ways. I think is a really turning point this year for the industry. You know, that brokers in commercial are going to be hybrid moving forward. There's going to be more regulation coming in, but work with it. Everyone wants the best customer outcomes. So to us, consumer duty was no biggie because we cared about the customer outcomes anyway. Good brokers do. And in terms of what can you do for your customer, you know, if you care about the customer outcomes, you're worried about what they're going to be doing 3 or 6 months down the line with something else that they're doing, not just the once every few years when they want to talk about the property. I think it is all so tied together.
It certainly is. And like I said, one thing you said a bit earlier, it's about a long-term relationship with these clients. And well, the other thing that I get a bit passionate about, because again, there's another huge gap in the market is business protection. So when you're looking at your typical client and your client demographic, and you're helping that client out with this commercial need, then again, they will have business protection needs as well, which again, as a broker, you can bring it in-house and talk about that as well. So there's another opportunity there to talk about another product to then build long-term relationships.
There definitely is. It's not. You're very right. It's not just the okay. Here's your commercial mortgage, and therefore there's your kind of van leasing. You're right. We have a big chunk of our network are regulated practices like yourself, who are also doing commercial as a side business and so on. We have plenty of people coming to us that are not network backed, so they might have been unauthorized and they might be coming into this from a different angle. And we are, we have a commercial. Oh, sorry, we have comprehensive financial planning. That 22-year-old business. We have that business where, if these guys don't have an option, naturally they can work in partnership with Fiducia Group to actually offer that service, but it's not just it's the key person, it's the life side of thing. Transactional. Every commercial property deal we have, people say, well, commercial buildings insurance or landlord protection, or what else is there that we can kind of get into. So you're very right. Why not again extend that one-stop shop to being, you either have that as yourself as a business, and therefore the commercial side business is that much more complementary, or if you don't have access to that naturally, why not have a referral route which is within the group that you're authorized by anyway? You can trust the route, you can trust the hands that you're handing it over to, because that's one of these things. I mean, we have a lot, but there's different reasons people come towards us. Increasingly, I'm always hearing that we just can't keep on referring off to a packager where they say, right, don't call us, we'll call you, because the customer outcomes, it can affect customer relationships, etc. Why not do it yourself? You're the only one who's going to care about your customer as much as you do.
I mean, that's the thing. Like you said, trust there, Mark. That's the thing with it, is that you've got trust as a broker, that you're working with somebody that actually is going to help you enhance your brand, not clash with your brand, or not going to devalue your brand. It's having that somebody there that you know and trust, that you're going to work with, that you're handing over your client to. And trust is a massive thing. I think it's sometimes we underestimate that as a value from a referral point of view, because brokers are working hard to get leads, get clients, and then maybe obviously exploring as many opportunities you can, and having that plan B there, that if there is that need, where do they go with it? And having sort of that partnership there, there's somebody that they know and trust, will help them then to generate more leads, and from a commercial, generate more referrals, and build on that business from there. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think if you'd have asked me that question 2 years ago, I still would have said that the reason to start doing your own commercial deals would have been because you can probably on average earn 4 to 8 times as much doing your own deal as an introduction fee that you would get if you referred it out. But I honestly think now that the space is so competitive, and people are so conscious of how precious client relationships are, and caring about those outcomes, that actually just the client outcome actually outstrips the revenue potential now. I don't want to keep handing these cases off, because I just don't know if I'm going to get the customer back. The process is all a bit black boxed, as you mentioned earlier. When people kind of work with us and they're getting used to the process, our brokers will keep them in touch with what's going on. They can understand the process a bit more. I think it's a big driver.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. So before we get into sort of what I want to explore more in terms of Fiducia, and how setting up as a commercial broker can look, and working with you, and the support and help, which is key, and one of the things I'm sort of really keen to explore. What's your sort of take on the market right now from a commercial lending point of view? What do you think sort of 2024 looks like, and beyond, potentially, in terms of as a commercial opportunity for mortgage brokers?
I think it's a turning point. I think really just summing it all up was the Bank of England decision that came up today. It was a three-way split, 2 people to put rates up, 1 down, everyone else unchanged. Great, but that's kind of where the market's got to. But I think what we have got is we've moved away from that slamming certainty that rates are just going to keep on going up. So we got to it, but we got to the end of the year. I think the Red Sea, the Middle East crisis, that's weighing down heavily on everything at the moment. But so everything is caveated. Every forecast is caveated. I think that it's a turning point. I think there is an opportunity in commercial mortgages and in commercial finance generally. I think that lenders didn't do the business they wanted to do last year. So as well as rate certainty and swap rates coming down, which so quickly affects the rates at which so many commercial lenders go at, because it's not hedged, and they will just react off the swap rate side. There is an opportunity because lenders on top of that will also try to compete a little bit. And there might be, I hate to call it a price war, but you do get terms in the business, product terms, and they will be trying to get some business in which they've kind of missed. You've had other things move along, so it's not affordability in buy-to-let has been a big problem, obviously, and stress testing. Debt coverage in commercial debt coverage ratio in commercials also been a bit of a problem. On the high street, NatWest quite rightly made quite a big fanfare of the fact that they moved themselves back to 150% of requirement for debt coverage to kind of debt payments from net profits in a business. Most of the high streets still around the 175 to 200% level, and specialist lenders at around 125% of debt to profitability. That's a big thing because obviously with rates higher, significantly higher than they were 2.5 years ago, that sort of calculation just could, people could end up being mortgage locked, much like they were in resi. But I think there are opportunities. I think as well, moving away from just commercial mortgages, for the broker's got a lot of value that they can add to clients this year. That a lot of business is just conscious of cash. There are cash flow issues, so we get a lot of profitable business funding corporation tax. They're good businesses. They're making profit. Therefore they're paying corporation tax. But if that £50,000 or £100,000 is the last that they've got in the business, they don't want to spend that all to HMRC on the basis that you don't know what's around the corner. They also probably don't necessarily want an HMRC time to pay stamp on. That could stop them doing something else in the meantime. Every bit of business that a business quotes for, all the costs are going to be up front. Boots on ground, equipment, contractors, whatever it is. You've got to pay for that now. You've got to pay for some slight supply chain that's now taking extra 10 to 12 days because of the Red Sea crisis, and your revenues downstream. How many times can a business keep doing that before it runs out of cash? You can't keep on paying cash and getting revenue 50 to 60 days later. So cash flow funding is really, really big. And these are all the clients that historically mortgage brokers have been doing commercial mortgages for. So there's a lot of opportunity, but it's not just a profiteering, a chance to make revenue type thing. There's a lot of opportunities to genuinely add value and help clients.
I think it's just having it there, that knowing that you've got that tool in your toolbox to then to be able to talk about these sorts of things. So you've got brokers that have been doing this for several years and comfortable doing what they're doing. They built themselves a client bank up. They know which lenders offer what from a residential point of view, the protection, they know what they're doing with that or referring it. It's just having this there to think, like spotting those opportunities, thinking, do you know what, these are the opportunities that could arise. These are opportunities and questions that I'll get asked about, and it's then knowing actually what do I do with those opportunities based on my clients. And then once you've got the taste of it, they'll go out and chase even more of those clients. So, but I agree. I think they said that it's certainly a good time to be a broker right now. I know that obviously with the beginning of February, and most mortgage brokers are talking about how good the market's been. Mortgage brokers are talking about how much they're up compared year on year. So it's a good time to be a residential mortgage broker. But that also means that when you're busy as a mortgage broker, these opportunities will spring up as well. So that will mean more referrals for financial advice, more referrals for equity risk, more referrals for asset finance, commercial lending, and the rest of it. So it's just making sure that you've got that there and you know what you're going to do with that when the opportunity arises, because it will arise. And if it doesn't, you'll then start to look for it a lot more, definitely.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think from my perspective as well, I'm very conscious. I've just reeled off a lot of products there that a residential mortgage broker that was looking to come across and do some commercial mortgages and bridging might think, oh my word, I'm not going to touch those with a barge pole. What's he talking about? But as and when the opportunity comes up, as and when they want to look into that, we can help with that. We've got collateral sitting in our AR portal, which says, right, if you want to look at this, these are all the questions you should be asking up front. this is the information and documents you're going to need to actually progress something in that. And we can spend time working on that with them. I've gone on calls with ARs to explain exactly what an invoice finance quotation means. There's some, we love terminology and acronyms that just is baffling. We don't need an FAQ. We need a kind of an acronym buster on our website, to be honest. It's scary how we use it. But we know, I think there's what we're keen to impress on people is, look, when you've got the capacity to look at it, when you've got the bandwidth, there are other opportunities which you can add on for exactly the same clients. I think that for a long time, brokers have always thought, well, look, I've just got to keep on casting the net wider and wider. There's 4 social media channels I can use every day. That's how I have to get more deals in. What about actually that guy that you've done the residential mortgage for is actually the MD of a business. So actually you don't cast the net wider, you just do more for some of your existing clients. And I think that's a big unlock, and that's a big driver to a lot of people joining the network.
Definitely. And so going on to that then, when you talked there about, because I wanted to get into a bit more detail about, so we can talk a little bit about process in terms of becoming an AR of Fiducia, but one thing that I wanted to get across in your take on it, and in regards to this help and support, I know we touched on it a little bit before we hit record and talking a little bit about that, because there's a lot of brokers that I talk to where they may be sole traders, they may be one-man bands, they may be part of a firm, small firm, but support and the lack of help and support is really apparent for a lot of mortgage brokers, particularly getting new into the industry or new into the mortgage broker space or going from employed to self-employed. Help and support is key for their success. And the reason why I wanted to get into a bit more detail about that, because as a mortgage broker, if I've been a self-employed mortgage broker for 2, 3, 5 years, however long it is, and I'm thinking right now, I want to become an AR of Fiducia, but I don't know where to start. I'm concerned about the help and support because I didn't get any when I set up as a mortgage broker. Whereas you do give quite a lot of help and support, particularly when you're first starting out, to anybody that's new, because they're technically new into this world.
Exactly. And we train a lot of people with a lot of experience, whether it's kind of 3 to 5 years or practice principals that have got 20 years under their belt. In residential, it's still, or IFAs or however they're coming across to us, it's still new. I just sometimes like watching the reaction when I start saying, right, so I'm just going to start teaching you how to kind of broker commercial and how to, and people think, oh, I've been a broker 15, 20 years. What are you talking about? But there are nuances of it to it. It's not, there is an element of thinking outside the box. You'd be amazed how many people come in for a term mortgage where they really can't have a term mortgage. And you've got to identify this straight away and go down the route of exactly why it is they need a bridge to start, because it hasn't got any ceilings, and you're going to have to wipe your feet on the way out the property. There's no way that's ready for a term loan yet, etc. You've got to be able to be honest. You don't want to waste your time or the client's time. You've got to be able to spot a regulated deal. We get sent over as brokers, as referrals. We do get sent plenty of deals where, for one reason or another, these are going to be an accidental land order. There'll be something where the residential space that someone is going to live in a mixed use property is actually just going to cross over that line, and it's going to make it a regulated case. So there's all of these sort of nuances to it. But ultimately, you're right. I think if people come to us with financial services experience, with regulated experience of any description, and with the aptitude, and they come with existing deal flow that they've been referring elsewhere, or a network that they definitely will have interest in commercial from, we can add on the rest of it. So we do that prior to people going live in terms of training, etc. We can help with them, if they are looking at starting up the business, we can help with some other kind of add-on peripheral side of things, but we can definitely help them with the nuts and bolts of doing the business. And a lot of the, we have a really, we do very compliant business, but we're not a compliant service provider. We're not Presbyterian about, it's not compliance first. And I don't want anyone to jump on that thinking that we kind of cross any lines. We're not tick box. We do everything really, really well. But we've also got a really great compliance team that work with people. So, for example, we provide white label docs. But what's that mean? We mean our compliance team will actually work with someone to help them absorb that into their process. If they've got e-docs, if they're always going to be, to make sure that they're not putting something such a high bar in front of a client to sign a set of forms that would be off-putting. Let's just help make it work, but help make it very compliant. And just even when people start, let's make sure that you don't waste your time, the client doesn't waste their time, and that your client service levels are maintained. A great example of that is, textbook broking. Someone comes in with a case, they refer it in, right? Oh, hang on a second, I've got 6 documents. Here we go. Get the client to fill them in. There's all the associated documents we need, and then we'll go out and find out. Well, you don't want to do that necessarily, because you can find out, you can sense check the case. You can find out enough about the portfolio, about the trading business, one set of accounts, whatever it might be. As long as you can find out enough information up front to get a lender opinion about whether that's viable or not, within a couple of hours, you can let the client know, look, this is caveated all over. It's not a full offer of funding. This is, at this point, based on what we've got, I think it probably is viable. This is what you're probably sort of looking at. If it's something that you want to move forward with, then let's get on with some documents. I've sat next to people who've gone ashen-faced, and they spent a week getting documents filled in by the client, and it's all there. Client said, oh, thank goodness for that. Off you go, great. Half hour later, they phoned them back and said, yeah, sorry, that's not going anywhere. And you won't hear from that guy again. So your client service levels are blown. So it's that sort of stuff that we get in. We just try to keep their time, preserve their time. I think we've got practitioners in the business on the BDM side. I'm biased. I count myself on the BDM side. I find it the most important support we have, and compliance and finance, and everyone would argue with that. But I'm a former broker. I've got another former broker. I've got a packager. I've got guys who've actually worked on cases who pick up the phone and can sense check cases pretty quickly in terms of where to maybe send it, what to watch out for. We have a lot of sourcing collateral. Unfortunately, there isn't a commercial brain, and if there was, I probably couldn't call it that. I'd probably get sued. But sourcing systems in commercial are that they're great. They'll be talking to you about what's really there in theory, but you can't just go to a theoretical sourcing site. Okay, off that, not taking anything individual into account from that client. This is what I reckon, because what we do is we source terms that are actually viable for that client situation. And that's what we show our ARs. There's so many moving parts in commercial, whether it's the company profile, the SPV profile, the property profile, the credit profile of the people involved, whether it's the lender appetite, there's so many moving parts. And we get people to cover all of it. We have cheat sheets, which are the compliance love the name of, but they are the first 4 to 6 lenders that we would currently suggest you go to, just to save yourself a little bit of time for each type of product that we do, and not just bridging, but simple bridging, resi bridging, commercial bridging, complex bridging. Bridging that really does mean it's with refurb that really is knocking down walls, and so we try to cover all of that and give us they're not surefire routes to quick funding, but they're definite kind of support for that.
Right. I think that's it as a broker. When you go into something new, if you've got somebody there that you can, like you said, the BDMs, that you can pick up the phone, and there is no such thing as, like, say, commercial brain or commercial criteria hub or anything like that. It's a case of talking through with somebody that understands it and a far much more experienced. But that's important to the broker, of having that BDM there, somebody to then sort of talk it through and giving them the answer fairly quickly, and speeding up the process. I'm not talking about cutting corners with the process, but speeding up the process a little bit. Like you say, rather than 6 documents and then a week later and then a 2-minute conversation saying it's not going anywhere, it just speeds up. And that's what you want as a client from a service point of view. But that's certainly what you want as a broker when you're doing this as well. This is the ideal from a mortgage broker point of view. So
yeah, definitely. And I think we as a business, our thinking I'd say has evolved. So out of all of this support, etc., just really comes down to the fact that we may have 2 to 3 years ago said, okay, well, people will come on board. They won't do a single thing for 3 months. In the first year, they won't really be doing an enormous amount, etc. Where people have got experience of handing off cases, so they've got the flow, but it's just a question of helping them actually transact that themselves. I'll be trying to help them hit the ground running. I'll be trying to have if they've got clients that have got stuff to do in the very short period of time before they go live, I'll be sense checking those cases for them. I'll be building an idea of where they go when they're live, and they can be out in front of people day one. With our support, we can support them with the dialogue, with the BDMs, the lenders if they need it or whatever. I want people writing business as soon as possible. So out of just the support has grown this. I think one of the greatest USPs we have as a network is we genuinely, no strapline, want our AR's businesses to grow. And I'll be quite honest, of course, that's the way that we grow as a network. We're not just here to collect monthly fees that don't quite cover all the subs that we're paying out for everything that they get anyway. But their businesses need to grow for us to grow. And we have to resource that. We have to care about that. We have to respond same day to people coming in, etc. It's about service levels, and it all goes up into this thing of how do we help your business grow? What's working, what's not working? Do you know every single bridge inquiry that comes in, you're converting you're only converting 1 in 4 commercial mortgages. What do you think you should be concentrating on, etc.? And just having these conversations and seeing how we can kind of help them, not just in the first 3 to 6 months, but kind of moving forward as well.
That's such a great, it's a breath of fresh air, and it's such a great attitude to have with regards to the ARs that you're getting on board, Mark, with this, because that's what they need. They want to grow. They're doing this for a reason. They want that, but they need that help and support. And you're sort of seeing that not as just a hand off and take the monthly fee. It's a case of really helping them on that one-to-one bespoke kind of way of their working and their client demographic or their location or whatever that looks like. It really is that one-to-one of helping them to for this to be successful and for them to grow. And it's quite refreshing that you actually care about that rather than just collect the monthly fees, thank you very much, and just that minded rather than the way that you are. And for me, the right way is the way that you are, that you're seeing this as a growth thing and helping brokers achieve more, which is what everybody wants.
Exactly, and it is a team thing. I talk about this all the time with yourself, with people I'm already working with people that I really want to work with, and we talk about how you've got this bigger thing around you. But nothing, when 2 years ago there were 3 or 4 of us doing what you and I were talking about then, I've now got 12 of us in the team doing what we're talking about as a network team, not doing other jobs, as a network team. We had a in-person networking event with 5 great lenders who came along for the day, spent a lot of time just really talking about current appetite, what's really going to get funded, how to spot an opportunity. They weren't just reading off product cards. And you could see then, you could actually kind of tangibly see the fact that these guys were in the room. There's 1 or 2 of them from every firm. There was just over 50 people there in total. There really was a tangible network around them. So you start this business up you can be a one-man band. We're talking to a great firm today that are on a regulated network, but he is effectively a one-man band with 3 support staff, etc. He's been in the industry a long while, very, very successful, regulated, wants to get into commercial. When he comes into commercial, that would be quite a lonely place because on day one, he's going to be sitting there, but he can obviously phone us, etc. But what he can also do once a quarter is sit in a room with 40 or 50 other guys in exactly the same boat, compare war stories, network. He can have a WhatsApp chat and talk to them kind of, unfortunately for me, quite a few of them talk late at night as well. But, you are part of something bigger. It's a very lonely place starting a business, as we all know, and who've done it, and you're not on your own. And you've got not just the network team, but everyone else in the network as well. And I think it's quite empowering for somebody starting as 1 or 2 of you to do something. You kind of puts a bit of momentum under you.
It does, and Mark, you've absolutely, it's spot on what you've said, because I talk about that in terms of community, and that's brokers are lonely. So these people are sole traders, self-employed, based in an office or based from home in a bedroom or dining room table or whatever the case may be. It can be a lonely place. So the community aspect of this is key. The community aspect of being a self-employed mortgage broker, I understand how important that is, and I talk about that a lot. The same with this, and it's so refreshing to hear you talk about that in terms of that community aspect of it with WhatsApp groups and things like that, because it is the community that's going to make sure that's going to help everybody achieve more, which is why we're all here. So
yeah, that's great. I mean, we all need a community. I've got a great team. I've got 11 other people that work with me that make me look good in everything I do. I could definitely not do everything I'm doing without, we're all very, very important cogs in the part that we do. And all these guys, we take a lot of, we're not a rigid network. These guys will come in and say, look, I really used to work with this lender, do you reckon? And we'll have a look at it. Compliance will do their due diligence, we'll add them on. We're not going to tell them no, we've got the lender panel, thank you. We're very open to that. They'll come and suggest things that could be changed in the proposition, things that could be, if it's a change for the greater good, fantastic. We'll kind of listen to that. definitely.
Excellent. Mark, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. We've sort of 40 so minutes of chatting again. I think that the last episode, when I look back, was about 40 so minutes as well. So, but I think it's just, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming on back onto podcasting, getting into a little bit more about where Fiducia at, where you're at, where Fiducia's at, and answering, for me, understanding a lot more in terms of the help and support that you offer. So if I'm a broker, sat here thinking I want to get a commercial broking arm set up, or I want to be able to offer that myself, what's the first thing? Like, contact you? Is it LinkedIn? What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
We're out on it. I think we're out on all social media channels. Definitely Fiducia Commercial Network on LinkedIn, fiduciacommercialnetwork.co.uk. There's a lot of information on there on the websites. You can contact us through both channels. You can contact me through LinkedIn on my profile. And yeah, we'd be happy to pick up with anyone. We're always happy to have a conversation. As I say, we don't play the short game. It might be not the right time now. It might be a good time in 6 months, 12 months, or whenever. And we all operate in the same space. To be honest, every day is a learning day. I often talk to people who are doing commercial in some facet or another. I'm always happy to have a conversation and see what's going on in the world and the market. We always learn.
Well, Mark, thanks very much for that. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
Schedule. And yeah, I'm sure we won't wait 2 years to get you back on, but thanks so much for your time today.
Great conversation. Thanks a lot, Craig.
Thanks, Mark, and I'm sure you agree, a great guest. And we really love talking to Mark about the way that they work in Fiducia with regards to becoming a commercial broker, and really getting into detail about their help and support and their ethos and their values around that as well. So, Mark, thank you very much for coming back onto the podcast. Any comments, thoughts, then please leave them in whichever platform, however you listen to the podcast or watch the podcast, then please leave your thoughts and comments. Reach out to Mark. Obviously, he's tagged into the post as well. If you think about becoming a commercial broker or wanting to know more, then please reach out to Mark or the Fiducia Group, and he'll welcome any conversation, as he said on the podcast. And as always, don't forget to run your own race.